Thank you so much, and welcome to the Grand Rapids Tuba Christmas. We're very happy to have you here. Tuba Christmas is an event that was started, I gotta look at my button here, 44 years ago, in honor of Bill Bell, who is a famous tuba player and tuba teacher. Was started by Harvey Phillips to honor his teacher, who was Bill Bell. And most of what we'll play for you today will be Christmas carols, with just a couple exceptions, and this is one of them. This is a chorale from Johann Sebastian Bach's Christmas Oratorio. God Rest You Merry Gentlemen is a tune that's been very popular in England for hundreds of years. It has almost countless verses, including one about the London earthquake of 1580. Does anybody know that verse? Oh, okay. Hopefully most of you got lyric sheets. If you didn't, keep an eye out for those. My children are going around handing those out. And please feel free to join us on the second verse of all of these tunes. Good King Wenceslas celebrates Vaclav the Good, who ruled in Bohemia in the 920s, not 19, but the 920s. And the words, of course, go something to the effect of, Good King Wenceslas looked out on the Feast of Stephen. And I had to look this up. The Feast of Stephen is Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, December 26th. We're just going to do this one time through, so if you have the lyric sheet or you know the words, please sing with us the first time. It Came Upon a Midnight Clear was from around 1850. It was originally sung in America, but the words were adapted to a different tune in England, and it's that English tune that we all know now. And we're not going to sing the third verse, of course, but I think these are particularly meaningful words. From verse 3, "And man at war with man hears not the love song which angels bring. O hush the noise, ye men of strife, and hear the angels sing." Now for the most recent Christmas carol that we'll do this afternoon, and we're very pleased to have a guest vocalist with us. This is Santa Wants a Tuba for Christmas, featuring Rebecca Barnard and Tanner Stedgen on tuba.
Special way. Christmas, he's never got a present before. Santa wants a tuba for Christmas. It's all that he ever asked for. It's all that he's ever asked for.
Let's hear it one more time for Rebecca and Tanner. As a tuba player, one of my favorite parts of Joy to the World is that part in the middle where the low instruments echo the higher instruments. Repeat the sounding joy, repeat the sounding joy. And I found out something interesting about that the other day. That was originally not in the tune as it was written. And Joy to the World is often misattributed to Handel. And I thought that for a long time. I told my students for years and years, oh, George Frederick Handel wrote Joy to the World. He actually didn't. But it's very, very similar to a tune he did write called Antioch. And in Antioch, there's that little echo that the bass line does. And so it's that made its way from this other tune that Handel wrote into our modern version of Joy to the World. And next we're going to do O Little Town of Bethlehem. This was inspired by a bishop's pilgrimage to the Holy Land. He asked the church organist to provide a setting, and the church organist was stumped. He couldn't come up with anything. He woke up Christmas morning with the tune fully harmonized in his head. So Tuba Christmas is one of the few places where we as tuba and euphonium players get to come together in this cool thing that is sometimes called a tuba quartet, or it's more appropriately named a tuba euphonium quartet. We don't want our friends on the euphonium to feel left out at all. And it's a very unique sound, as you can hear. We don't get to hear these low instruments playing in harmony in most of our groups at home, whether that's a band or an orchestra or whatever. I remember showing up to my very first Tuba Christmas with a plastic sousaphone that had a great big crack in the bell, and every note I played, the two parts of the bell that were cracked would buzz against each other bzzz, the whole time I was playing, which, for better or for worse, was not very much, because when I was in 7th grade, I couldn't play very many of those notes. But it was still a really fun experience for me, and it opened my eyes to what the tuba and the euphonium can do. And we have several different kinds of instruments here. We have euphoniums, which read bass clef. Hold your instruments up, please. That's most of them. We have euphoniums who read treble clef, which is a few of them. Very often when a trumpet player switches to the euphonium, they end up reading treble clef because they can keep reading the same notes. They use the same buttons. They just use a bigger mouthpiece and play an octave lower. Do we have anyone with a true baritone here? So that's an actual baritone, and very often euphoniums are called baritones. But if you can see way in the back there, he's got a little bit different shape to his the tube of the instrument. A baritone is what we call I won't bore you too much with the technical stuff here, but a baritone is cylindrical, meaning it stays the same length for more, and a euphonium, which most of our euphonium players are playing, is conical. It gets bigger through the length of the instrument. It's the same as the difference between a trumpet and a cornet. So one stays the same through most of it, and one gradually gets bigger. And then we have several different members of the tuba family here. Most of our tuba players are B-flat tubas. Hold them up, please. And then and you can see even within those B-flat tubas, there's all different kinds of shapes and arrangements of valves and tubes and all sorts of different things. And then we also have some C tubas. Hold them up, please. Those C tubas are just a little bit shorter in length than a B-flat tuba. We have 1 or 2 E-flat tubas, and those are even a little bit shorter in length still. And then we have 1 F tuba, I think. And that's actually the same length as a French horn, believe it or not. You take that curled up tubing in a French horn, and you just make the same length of tubing a different shape, and you have an F tuba. We're going to play for you a piece now that may at first seem not really to fit into Tuba Christmas, but it's because of the dedication to Bill Bell by Harvey Phillips that I mentioned earlier. Bill Bell's favorite chorale was a piece by Johann Sebastian Bach called Komm, süßer Tod. I apologize for my German. I probably mangled that. But the translation is Come Sweet Death, and that seems like a very inappropriate thing for Christmas. It seems like the opposite. But the context of that chorale is it's sung from the perspective of someone who has lived a long life, who has worked their hardest for their family and for their community and for their God, and realizing that the end of their life is inevitably near. They are coming to accept it and saying, okay, I've done the best I can for my family and my community and my God. I'm ready. And so that's a little bit heavy, but the reason we play it is because it was Bill Bell's favorite chorale, and it's a very nice arrangement, very nice harmonization here of Komm, süßer Tod. One of my favorite parts of Tuba Christmas is getting to have other people come up and conduct and to share that. And so we have now Vince Broen, who's a retired band director from Whitehall, and he's going to lead us in Silent Night. Just one time through, so please join us along right away. Tom Harsey is the conductor of the Coopersville Community Band. Do I have the name right? Yeah. They rehearse on Monday nights? They rehearse on Monday nights. There are lots of good community bands in the area. Wherever you're from, I bet you would not have to drive very far to find a community band. If you're someone who used to play an instrument, be that tuba or euphonium or anything else, I would encourage you to see what you can find in your area. And even if you haven't played for a very long time, I know lots of people who have had their instruments sitting in closets for years and years and then pick them up and really, really enjoy it. So if you're in the Coopersville area, please check out Tom's group. And we're going to play O Tannenbaum. And I should have mentioned when Vince was conducting, he also leads a group called the Boardwalk Brass, based in Grand Haven. And they have a concert tomorrow. Is that right, Vince? Yes. 7 o'clock tomorrow in Grand Haven. And next we have Tanner, and Tanner's going to conduct, help me out, Away in a Manger. We have something of a tradition at Tuba Christmas that most people don't bring their own jingle bells with them. My family often does, but I'm a music teacher and my wife's a music therapist, so we're a little bit weird. But if you have your keys, please feel free to jingle along with us with your keys. And in the middle of Jingle Bells, you'll hear a melody that you might recognize, especially if you're a low brass player. You'll hear the break strain from the National Emblem March, which of course is one of the three big famous marches that every American should know. You all know Stars and Stripes Forever. You would all recognize Americans We when you heard it, even if you don't know even if you can't think of the melody right now. And I bet you'll all recognize this melody from National Emblem. The beginning of National Emblem is actually the melody to the national anthem, fit into 4/4 time, and then the part that you'll hear us do is one of the few parts in marches where tubas actually get the melody, and so it's well known among tuba players, and we really enjoy it. So you'll hear that in the middle of Jingle Bells. That's a fun tune to play, and it's a fun tune to put into the middle of Jingle Bells. I realized as I was conducting up there, I forgot to have our double-belled euphonium show us his instrument. So tubas and euphoniums kind of look like Dr. Seuss instruments anyway, but this really does. And so one bell is a euphonium bell, and the curved bell that's pointed forward is meant to be the sound of a trombone. And so he can switch between the big bell and the little bell by pressing the extra valve that's pointed forwards there. So that's kind of a neat historical old instrument. When was that made? 1917. Pretty neat. So I get to introduce to you now Karen Dunham. Karen is our Tuba Christmas coordinator. She does all the work throughout the year setting up our location and communicating about the event, and I just get to show up and make music with my friends. I have the easy job. So let's give Karen a round of applause, please.
Matt also forgot to mention the sousaphone. We got two of them in the back, and I had one over in the opposite corner. That's the marching tuba you see on the street, and if you live in Grand Rapids, that's me. I wanted to do some demographics because I'm sure you're wondering about where these people came from and how long they've been playing together. We started about 1 o'clock today. We all got a book and sat down, and Matt ran our rehearsal for us. We have some fairly new musicians. I know we've got one 12-year-old and a couple more middle school students. So could you hold your instruments up so we can give you some love here? On the other end of the spectrum, we have someone who is intimately familiar with the AARP publications. In fact, there's a couple of them. If you folks would wave at me if you feel so inclined, if you want to admit it, yeah. We had somebody come from Seattle. We have someone from East Jordan. We have our family of 4 from Armada in Macomb County, over near St. Clair. And we have someone from Royal Oak. We always have some ringers who don't really play one of these instruments, but they say, oh, there is no oboe Christmas. There is no drum set Christmas, so I'll grab a baritone and show up. So if you are here, and you usually sit in a different section, if you would stick your horn up in the air, yeah, confess. And I mentioned our 4 family from Armada, Seattle, and 2 more people, mother and her 2 kids, are here, all playing with Tuba Christmas for us here today. So get your cameras ready. Get your cameras ready. It's 2. We practice this in rehearsal. We've all been doing our upper body workouts at the Y, and at some point, like the count of 3, we will lift our horns in the air and you can take a nice shot of all the Christmas lights and decorations. So here you go. 3, 2, 1. Hurry up, they're getting tired. All right. And it wouldn't be Tuba Christmas without the wonderful directing skills and rehearsal coordination of Matt Palmieri, who usually works with junior high kids and has stepped in and done this for the last 4 years. And it's so cool to have a director who actually plays the same horn that we do and gives us a lot of pointers and whatnot. They actually got a little bit of a studio rehearsal today. So give it up for Matt. And I get to lead the last number because this is my church. I'm so glad you're here at Fountain Street. Come back and see us again. We're here on Sundays, other times too.